up, tubers? Hope you're well, and welcome back. So you find me today sat astride, believe it or not, brand spanking new KTM 890 Adventure. And for those of you that have watched my previous coverage of my ownership of the KTM 1290 Super Adventure about 3 years ago, probably thinking, why the hell's he bought that? So let me take you through the rationale. So we're just leaving Pateley Bridge now, where I stopped off for a can of shandy, and we're going to head back via a little village called Summerbridge, and then back over the tops past the Menwith Hill, RAF Menwith Hill, the American Air Base there. So why have I plumped for a middleweight adventure bike? Bear in mind, as you might know, that I have an older BMW R1200 GS Adventure, a heavyweight adventure bike. But I'm not getting any younger, and I've got a little bit of arthritis in my shoulders, particularly my left shoulder. And another KTM, he's giving it some, isn't he? 1290, new one. So the sort of inevitable effects of the progression of years on certainly my shoulders make the big heavy bikes a little bit more difficult. But since I really wanted to retain a bike with a reasonable level of performance, a good level of performance, there were a limited number of options open to me, I suppose, in the adventure style of bike. And the beauty of these adventure style bikes is that they are, fucking hell, what am I talking about? Let's start again. Right, so why the KTM 890 Adventure? Well, why not? Basically, I was looking at a middleweight adventure bike to complement my heavyweight old BMW R1200 GS Adventure. Something a little bit more manageable, something you can just throw your leg over. Chuck your gear in the luggage and vanish for a few days without too much of a dither on. But of course, wanting to retain a good level of performance, it were important to find a bike in that category that wouldn't disappoint once you twist that throttle. So looking about, and I suppose that the sort of competition in this range, what would it be? It'd be like your BMW F850 GS and GS Adventure, be a Triumph Tiger 900 and Triumph Tiger 850. I suppose it'd be your Ducati V2 Multistrada, etc. Well, looking round, and of course you buy bikes with your heart, not your head, don't you? And every time I looked at the KTM 890 Adventure, not the Adventure R, the vanilla 890 Adventure, this one, Every time I looked at it, there was just something that captivated me. Now I know the looks of KTM divide opinion considerably right across the spectrum. Bit of a Marmite factor, but I have to say I do like them, particularly the adventure bikes. I like the look of them, I like the styling, I like the presence, and I just like the overall pleasure that they give you aesthetically, just sitting and looking at them. As I say, there'll be people who fundamentally disagree with that sentiment, but it works for me, and it's purely subjective. And as I said, because you buy with your heart, not your head, all the contrary indicators that you hear about regarding KTMs, I put to one side really. And bearing in mind it's a brand new bike, so there's a 2-year warranty, giving that additional peace of mind. So I've had this delivered brand new, 0 miles on the clock, and I've only had it just over a week. And really enjoying the ease of the thing. Got an exceptionally good deal at a KTM dealership called Teesdale Motorcycles in Thirsk in North Yorkshire. Got this grey beauty here. Didn't particularly want the orange one because everybody's got an orange one, haven't they? Everybody that's got a KTM's got an orange KTM. So I thought I'll have a grey one. And as part of the agreed deal, I got the 2 black Touratech panniers, obviously KTM branded but made by Touratech. I could have had the Touratech top box as well, but I already had, well, I've got 3 Jivy Outback Trekker top boxes, so I thought, well, all I need is a mono key plate, like 50 quid of a job, and I've got myself a selection of top boxes I can use. So I negotiated that instead of having the top box I would actually have the cruise control on this enabled, and I'd have heated grips fitted. So this is the thing with KTM, a lot of the functionalities that are listed as optional extras to be paid for, they're in every bike. All you're actually paying for example, your 250 quid, whatever it is, for your cruise control, you're just paying for some technician to put a laptop in and activate it. It's a little bit cheeky really, but that's the way it is. So anyway, so on this I've got heated grips, cruise control, Touratech panniers, Jivy Trekker top box, and in the last week I've fitted myself lower and upper crash bars from Adventure Spec, an upgraded bash plate, an orange bash plate upgraded again from Adventure Spec. Links in the description below. And I think they really do set the bike off nicely. The OEM bash plate just looked and felt a little bit not flimsy but somewhat lacking in overall ruggedness and durability. So, my observations about this bike so far, having ridden so many bikes, particularly adventure bikes, over the years. Number one, the mid-size, very manageable. It's still physically a big bike, but the dry weight of this bike is 196 kilos. and the wet weight is about 220, but because the fuel tanks are right down at the bottom there in those, as some people describe them, bull's knackers down there, keeps the centre of gravity very low indeed. So even at 220 kilos wet, you don't really feel kilo for kilo that overall mass. The riding position is very comfortable. I've heard it said on more than one occasion that tall riders find this bike a bit cramped. In fact, Nevesy from MCN said as much. Well, I can tell you, I'm 6'1", with a 32-inch inseam, and I've got the seat on its lowest position, and it's perfectly comfortable. And in fact, with the seat on its lowest position, at 6'1", with a 32-inch inseam, I'm still not flat-footed. I'm on the balls of my feet. So that would suggest to me that unless you are particularly long-legged, then simply popping the seat in its higher position, which is, I think it's 20 centimetres higher, would do the trick. But I am aware that some owners have raised the handlebars and lowered the pegs, etc, etc. But this stock as is out of the box feels absolutely fine to me. And there's power aplenty. I mean, obviously this bike's not had its first service yet, so I'm not taking too many liberties with it. But I can well believe the 103.3 brake horsepower and 100 newton meters torque in the spec on a bike of relatively low weight the performance is undoubtedly there to be exploited, particularly once this girl's run in. Now this bike's come fitted with Metsler Karoo 3 tyres, which are a 50-50 tyre really. I know a lot of off-road geeks reckon they're not a lot of good for off-road, but I'd be unlikely to tackle anything much more than a gravel track or similar, and on the road they feel very sure-footed indeed. ...21-inch front wheel, 19-inch rear, and I find the cornering is absolutely bang on, no issues whatsoever. And again, you hear tales from people saying, you know, it's got a 21-inch front wheel, it won't turn in as quickly as a 17 or 19-inch front wheel. Well, let me tell you, I've got a Triumph ST Sprint 1050 ST, and I've got the GS Adventure, and this KTM turns in every bit as well as those two bikes. So even with 50-50 tyres on and a 21-inch front wheel, the handling is excellent, very flickable, very manoeuvrable, sits well in the corners. I've also fitted, as you can see, the my train of thought there, I do apologise. The Garmin Zumo XT GPS sat-nav. Another great bit of kit, just sits nicely there above the TFT screen, which I've set in permanent night mode because I absolutely do prefer the white on black display to the black on white display that can flick to white on black if the ambient light levels fall. So I've locked this into night mode. Looks a lot better. It is a firm seat, however, shouldn't fall into that trap of assuming that a firm seat, a hard seat, translates into an uncomfortable seat, necessarily. Because I've had bikes with softer seats that have been far more uncomfortable after an hour in the saddle than this is. So it doesn't necessarily follow that a hard seat is always going to be an uncomfortable seat after a period of riding. And this I've found fine after, you know, after 2 hours in the saddle. I've not been at the same level as of agony as I have with other bikes with the ostensibly softer seats. The brakes on this are KTM branded, twin 4-pot calipers at the front on 3 20mm twin discs, and 2-pot caliper on a 260mm disc at the rear, if memory serves. And if memory doesn't serve, I'll put the correct measurements upon the screen. Right, I'm not particularly lover of all these all the facts, figures and numbers and general statistical profile of one bike versus another. What's it look like? What's it feel like? What's it ride like? What's the feedback like? What's it make you feel like? And this puts a smile on my face every time. And it goes like stink. What more could you want? A bit wide in the backside with the not me, well yeah me, but the bike with the panniers on, which I've got on now. But lots of carrying capacity there. They really do look the part. But you've got to be really acutely aware that you've got them on, because they add a substantial width to the bike. Mr. Ducati. So this is, it's basically a do anything and do it all well bike from my perspective. I'll be going with my mate Gazza, VFR Mitch on YouTube, look him up, VFR Mitch. We'll be going to 2022 Wildbrand Weekender, Richie Vida's setup, end of July. I'll be taking this. I've bought a tent, it's a long time since I've camped. And we're going down there, no doubt carrying on something shocking for 3 days, but anyway, there you go. So I'll be taking this baby, and if we have to contend with a muddy field, I can't think of a better bike. Coming up to Lindley Reservoir here. Keeping my fingers firmly crossed, well, metaphorically crossed, that you're going to see this video. Because the main camera's a GoPro Hero 7, and it just depends what mood they're in as to whether or not you get audio, or whether the thing decides it just don't want to play ball and seizes, just freezes up completely. They don't seem to be able to get it right though to GoPro for some reason, but we'll see. Forward facing cameras are Hero 4, which has proved a lot more reliable day to day, and the lower camera on the offside pannier there, that's a Hero 3 Plus, and they're both much older. Bought them reconditioned and they've been a lot more reliable than this brand new Hero 7, so we'll see. So yeah, seating position, very comfortable, legs at a reasonably acute angle, definitely not 45 degrees, but certainly not tucked right up. Handlebars at a nice manageable height. The standard screen, I was getting a lot of buffeting. I've just put that spoiler on, and that seems to have tempered that buffeting to a large degree. Something to do with a laminar flow effects or something of that nature. But anyway, it's done the trick for circa 16 quid. I think the only other thing I'll probably throw on this bike will be an aftermarket exhaust. I mean, the massive OEM exhaust on this got a fairly uninspiring tone, but then obviously it has to be Euro 5 compliant. But there are aftermarket options available, but I certainly aren't paying the best part of a bag of sand for an Akrapovic. I know you can get like an Arrow for about 400, but there's a mate called GR Moto and they're just 200 quid. And I think that'll be worth a punt if it just, you know, gives the engine a little bit more boom boom than clatter clatter. But it is a parallel twin engine. Same engine as in the KTM 890 Duke, but mapped differently, so there's a lot more torque in the mid-range, which you certainly can feel. Yes, a chain driven bike and no centre stand on this. However, I'm not quite so bone idle that I can't clean and lube a chain on a bike without a centre stand. I do have a bike lift, but I don't mind, you know, rolling it up and down the driveway to make sure the chain's maintained. Being careful what I'm saying here, because on this helmet I've got my Cardo Scala Rider Pack Talk Bold, and the voice activation software is a pain in the backside. If you want to turn the radio on or you know, put a phone call into somebody, it just completely ignores it. You can put every accent on face of the planet on and it won't respond. But if you make some completely irrelevant sotto voce remark, even under your breath, it'll decide either to bloody dial the last person that you called, or to turn the radio on. So when you're linked up with your mate or your mates, when you're riding in a group and you're talking on mesh, on DMC, suddenly you can find either you're dialing somebody up, or the radio comes on. It's an absolute pain in the arse. Sort it out, Cardo. It's rubbish. And it's potentially dangerous, I might add. You know, you're riding along, giving it the beans, and next thing you're dialing somebody up and that person answers, and then you're trying to explain that you're not ringing up to say you've stuffed the bike and you're in hospital.